Welcome to part two of the debate, President Joe Biden's political implosion. I'm Bertram Souza, veteran Mahoning Valley journalist and host of the Scribbler podcast. In 2014, the following headline appeared with a Reuters wire service story. U.S. Justice Ginsburg hits back at liberals who want her to retire. Here's the opening paragraph of the news report. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has a message for liberals who have been saying the 81-year-old should step down while Democratic President Barack Obama is in office so he can appoint her successor. Who are you going to get who will be better than me? Ginsburg, appointed to the High Court by Democratic President Bill Clinton, refused to retire, despite having two serious rounds with cancer. 6 years later, Ginsburg died of pancreatic cancer, enabling Republican President Donald Trump to make his third appointment to the Supreme Court. In so doing, Trump shifted the court to the solid ideological right. The 6-3 conservative majority rulings, highlighted by the reversal of Roe v. Wade and the expansion of presidential immunity, show that liberals were justified in pushing for Ginsburg's retirement. Who was in the White House in 2014 when the argument was made that the left-wing justice would be doing the nation a great favor by stepping down? None other than Joe Biden, Obama's vice president. Today at 81, and with a brain freeze debate performance last week against Trump, Biden is facing similar calls to step aside in favor of a Democrat who isn't seen as too old and too feeble for the job of president. Biden insists he will not give up the Democratic Party nomination, even while acknowledging that he blew the debate. So what should he do? We'll ask our guests, veteran political observers, who have either reported on or have been involved with numerous presidential elections. They are Dr. William Binning, Professor Emeritus of Political Science at Youngstown State University, former chairman of the Mahoning County Republican Party, and once an Ohio Republican Party insider, and Brent Larkin, the Dean of Political Reporters in Ohio, and former director of the Plain Deal editorial page. Larkin still writes a Sunday column for Cleveland.com. All right, thank you, Bill and Brent, for joining us to discuss President Biden's future in the wake of his surprisingly bad debate performance. The fallout is still being felt. So
yeah,
let me start with this overarching question. Do you believe the excuses being put forth for Biden's debate disaster, or was his performance a reflection of his mental decline due to old age? Bill, go first.
Oh, Bill gets to go first on this. Oh, great. Well, I don't believe anything that they say. I'm not certain from a political point of view. I'm not certain that his efforts to remedy, in my day, when you had a bad story, you just shut up, and hope the story goes away. I think it's kind of a rookie game he's playing. He went on. He had that breaking news. He went on. He put Trump's makeup on, and you see that when he had the press conference and he attacked the Supreme Court for executive privilege, and then he called Trump all kinds of names. Well, he had that makeup on. He looked like he had an orange face. He had the orange face, Trump's orange face makeup for that. I don't know that. I don't know how many people watched that. And he read that, and then all the stuff. He comes up with different stories all the time, and it gets to be problematic because sometimes they're contradictory. He said he went to the doctor, he didn't go to the doctor.
Right.
And the press is evil. I mean, they won't let up. Anything he says, they take and look into it, so I think he should just shut up and see if the story goes away. I don't think he can. I don't think he can cure this. It only cures time. And he has time. He could just stall and bluff and say nothing and do presidential things. That's what I would do.
Until the August convention, right?
Yeah, I don't think these. I don't think he's listening to the right people in the way that he's handling it. So of course I don't believe him. Nobody in politics believes any of the stuff they put out, but I don't think he should be trying to correct it. I think he should just let it go. I'm running and just go take a trip. Go to Israel and work on a peace. Yeah, go to Israel, I gotta work on peace. I gotta create peace in Israel. That's what he should do. Get out of the country and so that's my point.
You sound like the old Democratic Party chairman Hanai, who used to run candidates, and they were so bad he'd ship them out of town so they wouldn't be around to talk to reporters, but they'd be on the ballot. That's
yeah, that's what I think. So I answered your question. It does, I don't believe the stuff he said.
I can't kind of think that ship has sailed, though, Bill. He's going to lose if he stays in this. Do you see any way that he can win? I know he's running against perhaps the most flawed opponent in the history of the Republic, but it's all about 5 states. It's not about what happens in Mahoning Valley. It's not about what happens in Greater Cleveland. It's about maybe 4 states, 5 states at the most. And his numbers have turned a little softer in those states, and that means he loses. And wait, this is before, excuse me, and I'll shut up.
No, go ahead.
No, you're here to talk.
This is before we've seen a single ad highlighting his performance in that debate, and they will spend $500 million
Right.
on ads reminding us that, in their view, he is mentally unfit to be president. How do you get around that?
So, since we are all, senior citizens, in addition to being old and his bad performance and the way he looked and all of those things during the debate, he does remain stubbornly intransigent about whether or not he's going to drop out. Is he delusional in addition to everything else when he says that he can defeat Trump, Bill?
Oh, I think he believes that, and you also have to take into account, and all of you have seen this over the years with, state political figures who we have more experience with than national political figures, but they're surrounded by lackeys and suck-ups who depend on their jobs, and want to keep their jobs, so they're going to keep telling him he can win. So he's not delusional. Nobody's actually probably that he is in a circle telling him you should get out, or the only person he'd probably listen to would be his wife. Nobody's telling him anything, but Joe, you can win this. You just buck up, buddy. We're gonna win this. You had a bad day. You can win. That's what he's hearing around the circle.
So
he's insulated.
Right.
I don't think they're that good.
Yeah, and he's insulated, and yes, and then all the advice he got about the debate, even having a debate, pushing it for this, that's all. It shows a flaw in that entire campaign. The people who are advising him, and then he says he had a cold. So all right, and I grant you, people get colds all the time, but yet when his appearance on television, on the stage, standing next to Trump, and he had this white face that looked ghostly. And as he was watching Trump speak, he'd have his mouth open. And I don't know whether people told him, hey, by the way, you're going to be on a split screen throughout the debate. So, don't stand there like you're sort of a zombie. And you're right. I mean, but Brent, this goes beyond the advice he's getting from his handlers and his family and his wife and all of that. So let me first of all congratulate you on your column Sunday that was headlined "Biden's Disastrous Debate Performance Leaves Nation at Risk." Could you lay out the premise of that column and then, I'll get Bill to comment as well.
Sure, the premise was that it makes it far more likely that we have a return of 4 more Trump years, and I'm uncertain as to what the Republic would look like at the end of 4 more years. And I think, that's not unfair to worry about, given based on what we've seen. If you've seen him of late during the stuff that tumbles out of his mouth at some of these rallies, you cannot understand what he's talking about. And he would you rather have somebody who's too old or too crazy?
Bill, would you rather have somebody who's too old or too crazy?
Well, us Republicans, the only hope we have is divine intervention. There may be maybe the Democrats will push their guy out and get somebody else, but we don't have as much opportunity to get rid of the orange man. He's going to be the candidate. We have a drinking club, and we only drink 1 beer. That's all we can handle anymore. But one of the things that I was promoting is that people underestimate the fact that Trump had a successful television show for 9 years, and they didn't cancel him. He quit because he was going to run for office, and so he knows how to project. And he has naturally, and he's been trained. He knows how to project on TV. Biden, in his best day, is no match for Trump in a debate. They should have never debated. They should have said, "We're not debating that guy. He's a felon. We don't debate felon," or whatever. They could come up with it. It wouldn't have changed the poll numbers of the outcome of the election. That's a big mistake to debate Trump, I think. And he is such an effective liar. I mean, the stuff he says straight face is unbelievable. And Biden's no match to that, because Biden's, you could see him, the stuff is going through his head. That's true.
He told
he couldn't handle, know what to do about it. I said, "Oh, that's not true."
he told 30 significant lies in that debate in what, 90 minutes?
And wasn't challenged once.
No, but Bertram, we've been talking about his lies since 2015, and that we're going on 9 years. And how much has that hurt him? Well, not enough.
No, at least not with his base. I mean, he has legitimized lying in politics.
Yes.
And his base shrugs and says, when I confront them, these are blue-collar traditional Democrats who have now become Trump supporters. When I confront them, because I've known them a long time, they shrug and they say, all politicians lie. That's the line he started using.
There's some truth to that, but this guy is an extraordinarily effective liar. I mean, he can say it with a straight face, and he's bold about it, and he won't be corrected by facts or information. And that was one of the problems that I don't know. Whoever was prepping Biden didn't prep him for that, because you could see his mind working, trying to figure out what he could say. He knew that Trump was lying or misrepresenting the facts or the truth, but it was like his mind was trying to figure out how to come back on that, and then they changed the subject on him. So he couldn't deal with that. I think they should have never debated. That's right.
But Trump's been Biden has been on the debate stage many times. And I can't remember that there's ever been a...
Yeah, I don't remember what the last debate was like. They had to have a debate in...
The last one was the one when Trump talked over him the entire time, remember?
Yes.
And they yelled at him. And that's why they shut your mics off, mics off the other night when the other candidate wasn't speaking, and to prevent that from happening. But
okay, so... And this may be instead of inside politics kind of stuff. So Biden is shell-shocked on the stage, can't think of putting a full sentence together. Trump is lying through his teeth. Should the moderators have called him out on those lies? Should they have intervened and said, hold on a minute? You know, it's one thing to debate the merits of your position. It's another thing to blatantly lie, and here you are lying, so we're going to call you on that. Should that have happened?
I'll let Brent go first.
Well, I think we were told in advance, weren't we, that they weren't gonna fact check? And I think, I agree with, I think they should have. But if you fact check, that means Jake Tapper does more talking than Dana Bash than the candidates,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's a tough call. They're not supposed to be the show. The show is supposed to be these two old men. And if you fact check them, I'm not gonna second guess that decision.
One of the things that struck me is that CNN is trying to establish itself as a legitimate news source and not just a propaganda machine for the left like Fox News.
Right.
CNN wants to be a legitimate. There is no legitimate news out there.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'm gonna stay on message. So the point of it is, if those moderators continuously intervene seemingly on behalf of Biden to correct Trump's falsehoods, then the whole thing would be dismissed as CNN is just a mouthpiece for the Democrats. So
Right.
they were restrained because they're trying to create a new image for themselves as being an accurate news source, and this would have ruined the whole point of this debate. And even I don't want to, but as soon as I continue to watch CNN, maybe you did too, and at the end, the first guy they asked, he just
Right.
started the whole ball rolling. He said, "This is terrible. Democrats got to get rid of this guy," or
Right.
whatever he
Yes.
said. It was
Yes.
unbelievable. He is one of their longtime political analysts or newscasters or whatever. So they were trying. I think they're trying to legitimize themselves as a news source, and so they couldn't do what you suggest, Bertram. They couldn't intervene every time Trump lied to correct them. They couldn't do that. It looked like they were playing ball for Biden.
Go ahead, Brent.
Well, there's another aspect to this is in that the national media is now, especially the Times and the Post, I would assume, are being singled out for, where have you been all these years? You had
Yes.
to know
Yes.
this was going on. And here the new narrative is this is the same old, they're they were protecting the president
Right.
and these leftist newspapers. And so it's devolved into a finger pointing from that standpoint also.
Right. So if Biden does ultimately hear the calls for his resignation, for him to step down as the nominee, what do you think will happen? And Bill, you have a theory about the transition to a new Democratic presidential candidate. So expound on it, which we had discussed, and then I'll.
Well, I don't know. Parts of it have been printed elsewhere, but he's going to hold out to August 7th, because August 7th they're taking a roll,
Right.
and that's going to help him because those people are not going to be put together. Maybe by state they will be, but I mean, you're not going to actually have them in a public setting in a convention hall where somebody could light a fire and we could dump Biden and go somewhere. These people are going to be answering phone calls or talking like we are on a computer screen, and so I think that Biden will hold out till August 7th, and him and Harris will get nominated. At that point, if he's thinking about quitting, then he could quit, because then the Democratic National Committee gets to appoint the candidates, replace the candidate for the ticket. I can't see the Democrats doing anything but appointing Kamala Harris as the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party going forward in this election. And so that's what I think is. I've even got the vice president. I think she should run with the governor of Pennsylvania. Because they can't win without Pennsylvania. Just point the governor of Pennsylvania as their running mate and give it a shot. But but my point is, I mean, more controversial. They can't get around not pointing. I don't think. I mean, the blacks will walk out on Democrats. They can't.
I completely agree.
They can't walk out on her. They've got to nominate her.
But so yeah, Brent, so you do agree that the
Likely.
natural transition would be for the vice president to take the mantle?
Yeah, I don't know if Bill's timing is correct. I think if it might happen sooner, but yes, how can you not go back 4 years? He had announced prior to the election or the convention that he was going to pick a black female, I believe, for the job, and he probably shouldn't have telegraphed it or framed it that way, but he did, and he picked her. She's acquired a lot of detractors, and probably it would be very difficult for her to win. But you know, her poll numbers apparently today are better than his.
Oh yeah, much better. Her poll numbers are the same as his prior to the debate. She's 2 points back. That's where he was before the debate. Now she's 2 points back. She is the strongest candidate that they poll. I don't know. I'm not saying she's the strongest candidate in the polling data because she has name ID. All these other people that Democrats think they could run, you know, different governors they like or whatever, they're not known nationally. She's a national political figure. So I think I don't see how they don't nominate. I just if he drops out, and he's going to want her. I think he's going to want her, and she gets all of the money and the machinery of the Biden-Harris campaign.
But
what do you think, Bertram?
But let me suggest this: that in Donald Trump's America, there will never be a black president, and if indeed she is the nominee, they will come out in droves to make sure that Trump wins. Because if you remember, the Barack Obama presidency is what riled up a lot of these Trump supporters. And so I don't believe, I think it might be, you know, yes, the Democrats might not have an option, but that will really energize the Trump base to come out.
Well, the enthusiasm factor was always going to be an issue in this election because there was not going to be, we knew 2 weeks ago, didn't we kind of know there wouldn't be a lot of enthusiasm for Biden?
Yes.
And Trump voters, they don't give a damn what it's doing outside. They don't care what he said. They will be there on November 5th. And
one of the other, I mean, I'm not a proponent of Kamala for president, but one of the other things that we've long talked about, the four of us in this podcast, is the turnout in the black community, and this will turn out the black community. I think you know, when Tim Ryan was one of the first in the bandwagon here for Kamala, right? They wrote a letter to somebody, and they were on CNN. He was on CNN promoting this. He probably didn't get a job with Biden, but at any rate, you know, he's out drum beating. But what was his argument? The argument was that Brown couldn't win under the current circumstances, and we need Kamala. But he didn't say it. But part of the argument would be, what does Brown really need to win? He needs a big black turnout, doesn't he? Doesn't he need a big African American turnout to win?
Well, that hasn't happened in the last 2 election cycles.
But I'm saying if Kamala is the candidate, that's one of maybe that's one of the maybe there's a lot of problems, as Bertram points out, but maybe I'm just pointing out maybe there's a benefit here that we're not looking at. That, you know, that was certainly the case with Obama, is that they had a good black vote. So and the black vote's been problematic for the Democrats also. Maybe this will line them up. So that's something else to consider. This is early July. I don't think we'd be talking about who's going to win, or I think the point of our discussion, or at least with with Brent and I is that I think it's got to be Kamala. It's not because she can win or can't win. It's Democrats do not have a choice. They cannot walk away from her. They have got to make her the candidate. That's what I think. And that's the way it's going to be. If he walks out on this, she's going to be the nominee, and he will make it seem as best he can, and he's behind this.
Right, right.
This is his candidate. This is going to be Barack's candidate. She's going to be there. And if they can find Bill Clinton, they'll be his candidate. So that they'll all be out there for her. Nobody big's going to be against her.
There's new reporting in the last 24 hours, I believe, in the Wall Street Journal and the Times, that Trump personally doesn't want any change. He's very comfortable with running against Biden because, change brings uncertainty, and, they got to be at least a little bit worried about that. No?
Yeah, but I think right now, and I guess he's going to have a rally in Florida. Bill's
Yeah.
there.
When is that? Tuesday?
Yes, yeah. But before that, and we've talked about how there's still a little time for Biden as far as making a decision, because the conventions, the Democratic conventions in August. But this evening, he goes on live TV with George Stephanopoulos on ABC.
Correct.
Is this a make or break moment for him, Bill?
I don't know. It could be a break moment. I mean, the microscope will be on him, and if he sputters or stutters, that will be enlarged in the conversation. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know how many people will watch it anyway. But is he going to turn around the editorial board, the New York Times, or the Wall Street Journal, or some of these big Democratic donors that have already walked by having his orange paint on, and which he will, and seeming, maybe he took a nap and it's cold medicine and he's okay.
Yeah.
Is that gonna work out? I don't know. Is that gonna stop the drumbeat? It's been a week of every night. It's the big opening story in the national. I watch these now, NBC or CBS, national 7 o'clock, 6:30 news. That's the opening story.
Yes. So in addition to tonight, he's also supposed to have a press conference next week. I don't know if you watched the White House briefing a couple of days ago when the press secretary was doing the briefing. And of course, all of the questions were about Joe Biden and his performance. And it reminded me when Richard Nixon was in the midst of the Watergate scandal and was sort of pushing back against people who told him he had to resign, or he should resign, or should consider stepping out. And he kept fighting back. And one of his advisors said to him, "You do realize that this story will not go away. Every day, it doesn't matter what you announce, it doesn't matter what initiatives you take, it doesn't matter what country you fly to, this story is going to make the headlines." And that's what's happening to Biden, right?
Yeah. And it's also, people are political people. And now this is the time you don't want a story, because there's nothing for the press to do. And they gave them a story. You don't want a story in July. You want to be out in Martha's Vineyard someplace. You don't want to be involved. So I don't know who the heck talked them into having a debate at the end of June. It turned out to be a train wreck. The timing of it, because as you point out, Bertram, the press now chews on this every day. They don't have anything else to do, and they find somebody else to find. They go dig around. Let's go see what Disney World woman wants to do with her money this campaign.
Exactly. And then also you're finding that Democrats who are not household names, who are actually non-entities, get headlines because they come out and say he should step down.
Right.
I've never heard of these people who are saying, have you?
Yeah, no. These congressmen, yeah.
Exactly.
And the other thing is, some of these people that really are not, what's his, Ezekiel Emanuel or whatever, he comes out with his own ticket and he gets it in the paper. And he's not even a political guy. He's a medical doctor at Penn. But he comes out and he's, oh, we ought to pick 2 people from these 5 states. We'll make the ticket out of 2 people from these 5 states. That's the way we can win. Oh, what a genius! But he gets in the news with that kind of a bullshit story. He would never get covered for something like that under normal circumstances. So they just love all this stuff.
You know, this steady drip, drip, drip of
Yes.
members of Congress, a couple more bad polls, though, and it turns into a tsunami of members of Congress running away from him. And then it becomes unsustainable for the president.
Right. So that's Brent's right, Bert. That's the test. So you're saying about these make or break like Friday night. Well, on next Tuesday, are his poll numbers any better?
Right.
And if they're not, it's not going to matter whether he had a better performance with his makeup on or not.
So we talked about France, and they're having their election, the second round on Sunday, and it's quite possible that the far right party will win the national election. But let me read what one writer wrote about this possibility of this far right party taking office. And he wrote, quote, many people have voiced concerns that the surge in voter support for the fiercely anti-immigration national rally has made people feel more comfortable using racist, xenophobic, and anti-Semitic language in public. And that is exactly what Trump has opened the door to in this country, has he not? Brent?
Yeah, sure. I'm sitting here right now in northern Summit County, and about 4 miles from my house, sometimes in the morning I go to this place to get coffee. I pass 2 signs, big yard signs that say Obama sucks. And every time I go by them, I can't say exactly what I think, but it's been, when did he leave office? January of 2017.
Yes.
But, and you tell me this is not about race? Come on.
Exactly.
It is entirely about race.
I agree with you. Bill, this is your
All
part.
right. Well, I've been with the party, and I've been with the party since Nixon, and we would have appreciated the immunity decision during Watergate. So we think it's about 30 years too late. But, poor Dick got run out on nothing, and they had it. Now the court might have. At any rate, what do I think? Yes. You know, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Does Trump create this, or he's a product of it? It's become our culture. I don't know that Trump's the cause of it, but he's a reflection of a culture that's become very prejudiced, very tribal, and that seems to be getting worse and worse. Trump fuels it, and he's part, but I don't know that say he created it the same way. I don't know in Europe that the Le Pen group created that. They've been trying for decades, and I think that it just came to fruition, and they are there to take advantage of the growing animosity, particularly towards immigrants. My point is, I think Trump's a reflection of it, and you wonder what the Republicans would do if Trump wasn't around. These Republicans, what would happen if we were? What would happen if we were having the same discussion about Trump? Though Trump's because of his convictions, he can't run. The Republicans they're going to dump him, and they got to pick somebody right now. Who would they fill? They're not going to go back to the Bush crowd.
No.
It's a different party. It's a very different party in terms of its
They
culture.
would look to the far right fringe of the United States Senate and
Right,
choose from a couple handfuls of candidates,
right.
including from Ohio, perhaps. But
Yeah, that's another one we talk about someday is the vice presidential candidate from Ohio.
And which is interesting because yeah, he's one of the three, and so national media seems to think that JD Vance has been picked, but nobody knows for sure. Trump is keeping close, but isn't it true? Why would Trump pick somebody from a state that is not a battleground state? Isn't it true in politics, Bill, and even Brent, that you go to the battleground states and pick somebody from there in order to be able to use that, that elected officials, governors or whatever support, or senators support in order to make inroads in that battleground state, right?
he didn't pick one 8 years ago, and it got him elected. Indiana was not obviously a battleground state, and he operates by different rules. Bertram.
That's the first way is the way that I was thinking when I said Kamala's going to get picked, and when she does, she ought to pick the governor of Pennsylvania. That's the old thinking, that because she needs Pennsylvania, pick
Right.
the governor of Pennsylvania. But the other thing you have to keep in mind, and I think this is a problem. I don't know, you, especially Brent, you follow this Vance a lot closer than I do. I think his rhetoric on occasion and things he says on occasion is politically dangerous and could cause a lot of problems. And the old rule in picking a vice presidential running mate is you don't want anybody that's going to cause you any problems. And I think it would be a mistake, in my opinion, because of Vance's mouth for Trump to pick him. I think he needs to pick somebody who's going to keep quiet, not try to outdo Trump.
And overshadow him at times.
Yeah, right. And he's smarter than him in a lot of ways.
His IQ is probably 50 points higher than Trump's.
Yeah,
and,
so he's maybe that's why Trump won't pick him. Maybe yeah. Brett, we got the reason. There's a column for you. That's the reason he won't pick him. Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna pick him.
Smarter than him.
I don't think he will pick him. He doesn't want.
I think he's a risky pick. I just my point is I think it's a risky choice for him because some of the things he says are just off the wall. Yeah, Vance.
Yeah, go ahead, Brent. You said you don't think Trump will pick JD Vance. Why?
Because I think he's too big a risk, like Bill says. I also think because he's so much more articulate and because he does like to hear himself talk, and he needs somebody who, that's not what there's only room in Donald Trump's world for one star, right?
Yes.
And, Mike Pence was certainly no threat. It's not crazy to think this is all, we're walking into a trap here and that he's not going to pick any of them. And that will make his rollout even more dramatic because that's what this asshole's life is all about, turning this into a television show. And that's why I'll go out on a limb and say it won't be any of them.
Ah,
that's a possibility. But I just think Vance is, I think there's 2 points. One, Vance is very risky because it's some of the things that he says. I mean, I can't believe an American politician says them today. But the other problem is he's very intelligent and probably thinks he's smarter than Trump, and he's going to help Trump. And Trump's not going to like that at all.
Not at all. And God,
so
he compared Donald Trump. He compared Donald Trump to Hitler.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Period. End of discussion. That's what he did.
Yeah.
And he put it in writing.
Yes. But before I ask each of you to predict what's going to happen with Biden, let me say this. I watched the debate and the rules were such that in past debates, I believe they would take questions from the audience, from people, could sort of send in, email in, or text questions, and occasionally the moderators would read those. And the question I would have sent in was this, that Trump has wrapped himself in the Bible, his version of the good book, of course, and has become the leader of the national Christian movement in this country. But I bet he could not have recited the Lord's Prayer had he been asked to during the debate. I don't think he knows the Lord's Prayer. And yet, people see him as this champion for Christianity.
I wrote a column about this. He
That's
also, he agrees with what's going on in Louisiana.
Yes.
He with posting the 10 Commandments
yes.
in the and
which is very popular with his voting group. That's very popular with his voting group.
Yeah,
Right.
but Bill, he also know that he's obliterated at least 9 of the 10 Commandments.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to give him the break on the obvious one.
This is do y'all remember Elmer Gantry? This guy's a reincarnation of Elmer Gantry, man. He's a 10, and he does it. Yeah, Elmer Gantry had these traveling 10 performances and collected all kinds of money in cash. This is the Elmer Gantry of the 21st century. I wanted to intervene. I'm more than willing to go back to your question, but I just want to make sure that at some point we talk about the gerrymandering issue on the ballot. What we think is that going to go anywhere? Got on? Is it going to have any? It's just a question. Or is it going to have any of the steam that the campaign to defeat the 60% had? Do you think?
We'll bring it up when we do the postmortem of the Republican convention. So before we sign off, and I would appreciate the fact that I do appreciate the fact that you're going to join me in a couple of weeks. So what do you think President Joe Biden is going to do about his candidacy and staying in the race? Brent, if you want to go first, and then Bill.
I don't, but I will. I don't think he's going to be on the ballot in November, and I don't think he's going to win the election. Whoever the nominee is a lot smarter people than I am have written and pointed out when democracies or forms of government start to go south, there is a certain point where you can't bring them back from the brink. And I think that's where a form of government in this country is headed. That's kind of an extreme point of view, but I'm pretty pessimistic about where we're headed. So that's my prediction. If he won't be on the ballot, and Donald Trump will be the next president.
Bill?
I agree with Brent on the first point. I think, and I predicted with my beer drinking group. We took a poll, and I made the bold prediction a couple of days ago. He's going to be gone. He's getting off the. He's not going to be the nominee. And so I'm not that optimistic or pessimistic about where we're going or who. We have to wait and see. I mean, this is July. We don't. A lot of stuff can happen between. I just conclude with this. It seemed to me that some of the news was moving in the direction of the Democrats. With inflation going down significantly,
right.
And maybe if the Feds cut the rate, that and the old people's 401ks go up, that things could be better for the Democrats. Of course, on the other hand, if you all remember my hero George H.W. Bush, the same thing was happening, and he's trying to persuade everybody things were getting better, and the public didn't buy it, and he got beat.
No, they didn't buy it. And same thing was happening with Biden, right? And
So I don't know who's going to win the election, but I don't think Biden's going to be the Democratic nominee in September.
What's your prediction, Bertram?
I agree with you. I think his performance tonight is not going to be sufficient to cancel what occurred during the debate. And Stephanopoulos, George, who's a former White House person, but is also a veteran journalist, knows that he has to ask the tough questions.
Yep.
that it cannot be a part of affair because every journalist is going to be critiquing him. Every person who watches it is going to be critiquing.
Right.
So he has to be tough.
Yes.
And I think
Yeah.
when he does that, Biden's going to have a problem. So, yeah, I agree with the two of you. I don't think Biden's going to.
I think the other thing that points to what you said is that this is a show for the elites.
Yeah.
That the voting public isn't going to watch this. They're not going to tune in on Friday night on a holiday weekend to
Right.
watch Joe Biden and this guy talk about whatever they're going to talk about. This is for the microcosm. Small group of elites in America are going to watch this, and it's the editorial boards of the various papers that have already spoken, and the Trump crowd and Kamala's crowd. They're all going to be watching this, but the public's not going to watch this. So they're not going to change the poll numbers.
Right.
Yeah, good point.
Well, they won't help his poll numbers. They might make them worse. So that's the problem. And
I don't know.
And I think that's where this is now. Well, thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Happy 4th weekend. We'll get back together after the Republican convention. We'll talk about what happened at the convention. All three of us used to attend those. At the time when politics.
Bill, how many have you been to, Bill?
Three.
Three. How many did you, Brent, how many did you go to?
I've been to 5 total.
5.
Total, 3 days, 2 hours. Yeah.
I think I did 3 and 2 as well. But I do remember there was a time when the plain dealer used to take an entire floor in the hotel and have all of the rooms because you had 12 people, and there was I from the Vindicator, one person and a photographer. So
The most dramatic one I was at was in 1980 in New York when Kennedy was trying to
yes,
take the nomination away from Carter.
Yeah.
Were you there?
yes, I was.
We were at
there.
the Americana, the Ohio,
Yes.
7th Avenue. Yep.
Yeah,
That's another question. Is the Democratic convention in Chicago going to be a problem for the Democrats? Is there going to be protesting?
Yes.
Is this Gaza Israeli thing going to still be stirring these people up or whatever? So that'll be that might be more interesting convention than the Republicans
convention.
Yeah. Yes. Good point.
Well, thank you again. We'll talk soon.